Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So, Wednesday means it's Wildcard Wednesday, and we have a truly wild list to check out today. So, this is Eldritch-osaurus Elves, and this is built around a synergy that was really hyped during spoiler season of Eldritch Moon, because Eldritch Evolution seemed like it could do some really bonkers things. There was this really interesting synergy, but it never panned out until now. Eldritch-osaurus Elves took down a top 16 finish at a recent SCG Modern Classic in the hands of Chris McCord, so congrats to Chris on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break down the deck: if you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So, Eldritch-osaurus Elves starts out looking like a really typical Elves deck. Tons of mana Elves, Elvish Mystic, Llanowar Elves, just literal 1 mana tap to add a mana. Heritage Druid kinda turns all of your Elves into Llanowar Elves, but you need at least 3 of them. However, it combos with Nettle Sentinel, because you can get a Heritage Druid out, a couple of Nettle Sentinels, and then you can tap the Nettle Sentinels to help produce mana with Heritage Druid, and then cast a green spell, and your deck is very heavily weighted towards green, so whenever you cast a green spell, you get to untap your Nettle Sentinel, and then you just tap them again to make more mana. So, part 1 of the deck is make tons of mana. This is like every Elf deck ever, essentially, pretty straightforward. Then we have some Elf Lords, also fairly typical Elf stuff. Elvish Archdruid, taps to add a ton of mana, pumps up your Elves. Elvish Champion is really good at stealing random wins against green decks because of Forest Walk, so all of a sudden, all of these Elves are unblockable, plus they're bigger. And then Azuri works awesome with all the mana you have, because it's kind of an overrun on a stick. Regenerating your Elves is nice as well, but you can often get 5, 10, even more mana and just double or triple overrun with all your Llanowar Elves and stuff and trample over for the victory. There's a couple of just filler Elves. Dwynen's Elite put 2 Elves on the battlefield, which is kind of nice. It helps you flood the board and go wide with Azuri and your Lords. Elvish Visionary keeps you cycling through your deck, drawing more action, and it's just an Elf body. And then finisher number 1 is Shaman of the Pack. So if you can just play a bunch of Elves and get 8 Elves, 10 Elves on the battlefield, you're going to drain your opponent for an insane amount of damage, 10 damage when Shaman of the Pack enters the battlefield, so it doesn't take many Shaman of the Packs to finish off the game. You can also tutor up your Shaman of the Pack with Collected Company or Eldritch Evolution. So Collected Company is just kind of general value. You cast it, you get 2 Elves, you can get Lords, you can get some card draw, you can get Shaman of the Pack to close out the game. Eldritch Evolution is more pinpoint targeted, so you sack a 1-drop, you can get any of your 3 mana Lords. Sack a random Llanowar Elves, get an Azuri, trample over. You can sack any of your creatures to get your Shaman of the Pack to drain your opponent. So there's lots of cool value you can do there. However, since you're playing Eldritch Evolution, the deck can also play a really weird, crazy, janky, but I win the game right away on like turn 2 combo, and that is Allosaurus Ryder. So when Eldritch Evolution was first spoiled, Allosaurus Ryder was very hyped as a combo with it. So the basic idea is you can exile 2 green cards to get an Allosaurus Ryder on the battlefield, and it has a converted mana cost of 7. So even though you're playing it for free, it has a converted mana cost of 7, which means on turn 2, let's say you go Llanowar Elves on turn 1, on turn 2, you put your Allosaurus Ryder into play, sack it to Eldritch Evolution, and you can tutor up a Griselbrand on turn 2 with the help of Eldritch Evolution, thanks to Allosaurus Ryder's converted mana cost. Then, Griselbrand is just super good. Tutor Griselbrand wins lots of games on its own. In this deck, you can just draw a ton of Elves, go super wide, win the game that way. You can also just tutor up a Craterhoof Behemoth, which is a lot like Natural Order in Legacy, which is how Elves in Legacy often ends the game. But sack your Allosaurus Ryder, get a Craterhoof, everything gets trampled, gets massive, you just swing through and win the game that way. As far as the mana base, pretty straightforward. A few fetches, a bunch of shock lands of various colors, and some forests, and last but not least, Guiltleaf Palace. As far as the sideboard, we get some interesting customization options as far as the Allosaurus Ryder Eldritch Evolution combo. So if we don't want Griselbrand, we can bring in Iona, for example, and Iona is essentially just game over against a monocolor deck. Hellish Norn is for go-wide creature decks. If you're in an elf mirror, Hellish Norn is like the ultimate mirror breaker. You kill all your opponent's stuff, your stuff gets bigger. Simic Sky Swallower gives you a threat that is resilient to removal. Since it has Shroud, your opponent can't target it, and you just trample over with this huge flyer to win the game. We get a bunch of smaller creatures too. These are more things to hit with our collected companies. Reclamation Sage deals with artifacts and enchantments. Scavenging Ooze hates on the graveyard, gains us some life. Spellskite to protect our Azuris and Lords from targeted removal. And then Malira to fight against effect, essentially. We don't really have any combos with it. It's more to keep our opponent from killing us with infect creatures. And then we get some removal, a couple of pass, a couple of abrupt decays, rest in peace for the graveyards. And that is Eldritch-osaurus Elves for Modern. And that's been our instant deck tech for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.